Welcome to the Run Out. I am Neil Barrett. He is Brandon Hooten, back again to rejoin us. We have so much to talk about this week. The NLL season is going exactly the way we thought it would. The number one in the NCAA might be cursed, and the WLL completed its supplemental draft, all that and plenty more. But before we get started, Brandon, you were off last week. How's things been the last 2 weeks?
Been good, just been busy. Just same old stuff. Getting some different opportunities recently. So trying to capitalize as much as I can with those experiences, but been a whirlwind, to say the least.
Yeah. Anything you want to share? No?
No, I just take a lot of photos. Press the button a lot.
Take a lot of photos. All right.
Yeah. You know.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. I just didn't know if you wanted to go into anything.
No. Got some sick photos of Georgetown. I mean, it's the only thing pertinent to this show, really. Everything else has been away from the lacrosse field, but.
Oh, so that's why the stuff was coming up on my feed, because you took the photos that they posted.
Yeah, the ones they posted today or yesterday.
Yeah. I was scrolling through and I saw you had liked them, and I was like, oh, I just kind of assumed like, oh, he must have just like, liked the photos or something. But then they were in Denver, and I just put two and two together, like, oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah,
all right,
they didn't have anyone there, so they were like, can we have some photos? And I was like, sure. Here you go.
Sure. Not a great week. Not a great weekend to be a Duke fan.
Yeah, that's what happens when you finally play some real comp. Just like I said, schedule merchants. Eliminate them today.
All right. Mm-hmm. Yep. We'll see what happens with your beloved Mammoth.
I mean, we're already in the playoffs. I'm chilling.
Hey, you got to do something in them, though.
The last two times we made the playoffs, we went to the finals.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm just saying.
Whatever. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Should we get Brian on the line? I'm sure he'll want to talk about it.
No.
It's all right. When they beat Denver, he sent that stupid oranges bouncing video, and I was like, oh, here he goes.
You know what? That's fine. Brian's team won. Like, he can talk a little smack. What really got me was when Duke lost to UConn, and people are like coming out of they're not even UConn fans. They're coming out the woodwork to be like, oh, where you at, Neil? And I'm like,
oh, I didn't even consider that occurred.
Yeah.
Now I apologize. I will not talk any more trash. I didn't realize it was a double whammy type of deal here. I totally forgot.
Yeah. No, it was not a good weekend. But my thing was like, I don't get to watch much Duke basketball, so like I don't talk about it much. Like I'm a fan. I try to keep up when I can, but because I don't get to watch it, I don't talk about it. But all these people were like talking shit to me after we lost by one on a Hail Mary, like 3. Like, I get it. They won. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but like, and all these people were like, oh, where are you at? And I'm like, what are we talking about here? Like, why are you
Same
coming at me?
I've been all season.
Also, like, it was really funny because 3 of the people that were coming at me, their teams weren't even in the NCAA tournament. So, like, why are you talking to me right now? So, whatever. Anyway.
That's all right. Now you have ammo when they lose in the NIT or whatever.
I don't even think they were in the NIT, but we'll see.
Yikes.
Like I said, I'm out of basketball a little bit right now. I'm not really paying attention to this. I don't really know who was in. I don't even know who was in the NIT. I know there was a whole rash of people that declined NIT and invitations. So
yeah. Yeah, my team lost first round at NIT, so I'm not in a position to say much. Pretty
Who
bad.
was that?
Colorado State.
Oh,
In fact,
okay,
they lost
okay.
NIT, and then the next day the women went and had a dogfight with who was it in the NCAA first round? Lost by 3. I was like, come on. Like, the women had a great season, but
I don't guess I realized you were a Colorado State fan.
I went to school there. So, yeah.
So you didn't know that.
I don't have, but I'm also not tapped. Like, I don't care. I mean, yes, I want them to win, but I don't care if they lose the same way either. I just went to school there.
I can't believe you don't. Well, it's kind of not like super far, but it's kind of far away from you, isn't it?
2 hours, basically. Hour and a half on a great day.
Well, I was asking because I was like, oh, you should go. They have a great club lacrosse team. I was like, oh, you should go shoot there. But no, it's not worth driving 2 hours for that. Yeah.
No, I got to see them play like a fourth quarter earlier this year because I think it was during fall ball scrimmages. Maybe they played Colorado in a tournament at Denver, so I saw them play like the slightest bit. But I didn't know when I was there. I didn't know how good they were, and then after I graduated, I was like, oh, they're actually like a pretty decent club team, I guess. So some point I'll get up there, but
they were, when I was playing club ball, they were like the gold standard. Like they were the club. They had a really long time coach that I think is gone now. And so they're not quite as good as they used to be, but they're still a very good team. So, also, obviously Colorado State fan, Colorado, not oil and water there. I get that. But if you've never seen club ball, you should watch club ball. It's amazing. That was Colin from Colin and Samir, TLN.
Mm-hmm.
That was how he got found. That's how Samir found him. He was making club ball. It's like a little mini doc series about Colorado University Club Lacrosse. So, and it was great. It was a really good watch. So,
okay.
Anyway, let's talk some NLL now that we're talking MCLA, something we've never talked about on this show.
Huge MCLA fans here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I played it. I loved the MCLA, but yeah, it's hard to keep up with now. It's such a big thing. Let's start with the NLL games this weekend. We will start with Halifax beating Philly 8-6. I don't think anyone's remotely shocked by this game. Warren Hill had 43 saves, and Mike Robinson had 4 points to lead all points scorers, I guess, not goal scorers. Not the most exciting game I've ever seen.
Yeah, kind of surprised Deacon not got the start and played all game long. He did a fine job, obviously, but yeah. And then Philly went 1 for 6 on the power play, and somehow Halifax got none. I don't. That's insane. But yeah, this is
especially for Halifax.
Yeah, quite the difference, I think, for Halifax just from the beginning of the year to now. But hey, they got the win. I know they're technically still alive in the playoff hunt, so maybe this sparks something late for them. Obviously, Philly didn't have. Well, I guess we'll talk about their second game in a minute, I guess. But the first day of the weekend, at least, was not great. But I do think it is good to get Deacon Knott and some young guys. Lucas Nielsen having 3 points. We were talking pre-pod. He's been a great pickup for them coming out of Buffalo at the trade deadline. I think getting those guys some reps, whether they will be in Philly next year or not, together or not, hopefully, they'll build something better, I guess, with this young core, because we know about the fire sale they had, and 6 goals doesn't look great on paper, but you know what? Sometimes it happens that way.
Yeah, not too much to really talk about in this game, I guess. Brennan O'Neill only having 1 point is a little bit surprising, but like you said, it's a team that had a fire sale, 2 weeks ago? Like they sold off everything. They've kind of gone all in on the future of this team. And so obviously the future is not now. So, like I said, not exactly a surprising result in any way. Honestly, I if there's a surprise here, it's probably that Halifax only scored 8.
Yeah.
You know, I would have expected coming into this game for them to have 12, something along those lines against a fairly depleted Wings team. So not too much to say other than, like you said, like you mentioned, Lucas Nielsen continues to look like a good pickup for them, again, for the longer term health of the Wings franchise, and whatever happens to it, we'll get into that a little bit later as well. But other than that, not too much to really say here. So we'll move on to the next game of the weekend, which saw the Georgia Swarm beat the Ottawa Black Bears. Almost called them the Blackbirds. Black Bears, 12-7. Brad Dobson is Brad Dobson. I don't know what else to say about that. Lyle Thompson had 6 points. That's going to be good for them moving forward. And then I think Nolan Byrne was another like kind of bright spot in this game for them. So third quarter was a major thing. The Swarm scored 7 straight, five unanswered in the third quarter. 7 unanswered, 5 in the third quarter. To really kind of run out this game and see it through. They didn't need to do too much.
Yeah, I really thought this was a game that Ottawa was going to win coming into it. Not that I'm surprised Georgia won, but I just felt like Ottawa all year long has kind of played up to their competition a bit. And I really just think that third quarter was just, that just kind of sunk them. They were right in it every other quarter. But they had the possessions to do it. They still got outshot. They're just a strange team. We've been saying it all year. There's nothing really new to say at this point. I think Zach Higgins still. I know he gave up 12, but 43 saves. You did about as well as you can do in that area. Power plays are about the same for the most part. So it's gonna be interesting for them. I think for the Black Bears just down. Well. And Georgia too, technically, since they haven't clinched yet. But the Black Bears are now 8-8. They have 2 games on Vegas right now, and actually they have 2 games on a lot of teams. And so they're kind of fighting on that bubble. So we'll see what happens with them the rest of the way. But I don't. It's just hard. They beat teams like Colorado by 5, and then they lose by 5 to Georgia. It's just confusing.
This whole season's confusing. Like, what are we talking about here?
True.
If Ottawa won their last 2 games, and was in 5th place coming in the playoffs, you'd be like, okay, I guess. But
yeah.
They could lose their last 2 games, fall out of the playoffs completely too, and you'd be like, I guess. It's just been the way this season has been. And like you said, we talked about it all year. They are one of the weirder teams in this whole thing, where like you said, they can win games they shouldn't, they can lose games they shouldn't, they can vice versa, both of the, it's just it's so such a bizarre team. And like you said, I think the 2 games in hand is going to be really a big thing, especially for like Vegas and Rochester. They're going to have a really good opportunity. Well, in San Diego too, really. Yeah. Actually, I take that back. Really, San Diego more than Rochester. I'm not sure that there's a ton of faith in what Rochester is capable of doing. I say that looking at the fact that San Diego has lost 4 straight games, but I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I would think we both feel better about where San Diego is than about where Rochester is.
I'm not willing to commit to that, but potentially.
I like the way you said that. I'm not willing to commit to that. All right. Fair
Ask
enough.
me next week. That could be different, but I don't.
I just think
they're the same team in my opinion.
The same team.
Like think about it. They both have runs this year of like 4+ games, wins and losses. They don't seem like they'll have stretches where they're really good, and then all of a sudden they'll hit a slide. Rochester, which we'll talk about here in a second, killed Oshawa this weekend. Where has this offense been for the last however many weeks? Like that's why I'm not willing to say that one's better than the other. Like if Rochester got in and San Diego didn't, like you just said, I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense. And if it was reversed, I'd also say, yeah, that makes sense.
All I'm saying is Rochester's last 4 losses are to Ottawa, Calgary, and twice to Las Vegas. And then they beat Oshawa. Admittedly, they did beat Saskatchewan in there as well. But they beat Oshawa this weekend, who like Oshawa. Like, cool. San Diego's 4 losses right now, their last 4 losses are Colorado, Vancouver, Saskatchewan, and Buffalo. Like, I'm not really holding those again. I don't think San Diego's on the level of those teams. And the Buffalo loss this weekend was in overtime. So I get what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just not agreeing with you.
No, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm saying in the broader picture of making the playoffs, I don't know that I feel like I've had the same amount of confidence in both of them compared to other teams that are kind of fighting for spots. I'm also scared to recommit to Rochester because I was very high on them coming into the year. They started very hot, and I was like preaching to the choir, look at this. And then all of a sudden it was just like loss. So that's why I'm scared to just fully commit back to them, because at least San Diego came in with not really many expectations. They went on that big run of however many games it was that they won. And now they're sliding. Who's to say they don't all of a sudden have another win streak? Like, they're another team like Ottawa that I think you get them in the first round, you got to be a little nervous about it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking at the end of their schedule, and they've got Toronto, Georgia, and then Las Vegas twice. Las Vegas is going to be like a direct winner of those games could make the playoffs. Georgia, you would think, just based on where they are, probably a loss. Toronto, if Toronto plays like they did this weekend, that could be a win. But then I look at Rochester, and they've got Halifax, okay, fine, and then Buffalo, and then Georgia back-to-back. So it's like, if I'm looking at the schedule and trying to predict, it looks like, on paper, before the games are played, there's one game that Rochester has that you go, okay, probably a win. There's 2 to 3 games that you look at for San Diego and go, okay, probably a win. So, or hopefully a win, whatever. So that's kind of where I'm at. Not down the line, but anyway, let's move over. We talked about it briefly. We'll move over to Rochester beating the Oshawa Firewolves 18-11. Like you just talked about, that game. Where was this Nighthawks offense all season against Dougie Jamieson, who I think we both like, even though he's been a little bit up and down, but he had 40 saves not today, this weekend. I think you would think that was pretty good. He played pretty well, so
I guess. I mean, the Nighthawks had 4 players with 8+ points. 2 of them had 11.
Well, he gave up 16, but
yeah, well, no, not all on him either. Like, we've talked about it a ton. I'm not going to deep dive back into that, but this is who I think Rochester should kind of be. I'm not saying they should be putting up 18 a game, but just the way the ball was moving, I felt like was better. Mostly a clean game for the most part on penalty wise, but it's just weird. Like, you see this game and then you'll see some of their other games that are lower scoring, and it's like, this is 2 completely different teams. And when they're clicking, they're truly one of the better teams in the league, in my opinion. But when they're not, they're not. So who knows? Maybe at this point in the year, if you're beating the bad teams like this, maybe that does help kind of boost your team up a little bit on the back end, especially because they're a team that's legitimately fighting for like one of those last playoff spots. They're not just a Georgia waiting to clinch. They're like legit on the bubble. So I don't know. I on paper still think they're probably the best of the teams fighting for those final couple spots, but I still need to see more against some non-bottom three competition, I think, to have confidence at least going into the postseason.
Who are we considering? Like, where's your line when we talk about teams that are battling for those spots? Is Toronto a battle? They're in 6th.
Not right now. I wouldn't put them there.
They have a game
again. If the sky starts falling for them, potentially. But I think they're mostly good. Again, it helps that Ottawa has 2 more games, or is it 2 more games on them, or is it 1 game on them?
It's a game over. They have 1 more game.
Okay,
but they're also a game and a half back.
Yeah, so it's like one of those things where Toronto knows that they're behind them like that, essentially, to where if Toronto gets 1 more win, they're 10-6. Ottawa's 8-8.
Yeah.
But I think Vegas is there. I think Rochester's there. San Diego, and truthfully, Halifax are all there. I don't personally think Halifax makes it, but the fact that they're still there and could legitimately mess things up for other teams, I would include them in that. So I'd go Ottawa down to Halifax.
Yeah, I wouldn't include Halifax, not because they can't make it. I think they have some work to do to make it. They have to make up a game and a half to even get into.
They need some help for sure.
Right. So it feels just a little too far with they only have 3 games left. Because they're at 15 as well, and the 3 teams directly above them have only played 14. So it feels like just a bridge too far for them. So me personally, I would say Ottawa to San Diego. Even though, again, Halifax could technically be involved.
I think those 4 are more likely. That's why I said I don't think Halifax makes it at all.
Yeah.
But I do think there's going to be potentially some major shakeup there. I can't, maybe this happened last year too, but I can't remember when, having a team have 2 whole games, more games played ahead of other people. And like you mentioned earlier, like Vegas and San Diego playing back-to-back those last couple of weeks could legitimately, like, just those weeks alone shake up those last, and Ottawa's got to be hoping they can win their last 2 and be 10-8, because if they go 8-10 or even 9-9, that's murky waters.
Yeah. They have Toronto and Halifax, so
probably 1-1.
Not exactly
on paper.
Yeah, on paper I would say 1-1 as well. So not exactly, putting them in the playoffs necessarily. It's not 2 games you look at and you go, okay, two wins, they'll be 10-8, and they're going to be in. Like, it's going to depend on what happens around them, I think. So, definitely something to consider. Moving on to the next game, arguably. No, maybe not arguably. Probably the game of the weekend. Saw the Buffalo Bandits beat the Saskatchewan. I almost called them Rough Riders. The Saskatchewan Rush 8-7. Just an insane game. It's loading for some reason. If I remember correctly, Buffalo scored the last 5 goals of the game.
4.
Here we go. 4 goals of the game to go from 7-4 down to 8-7 up and win the game. Just a great, entertaining game for a neutral, even though perhaps you would wish for a few more goals, but still a very good, fun game to watch. Matt Vince looks like Matt Vince. This is why in the intro I was like, the season, for 3/4 of the season, I think everything we thought would happen at the beginning of the season for 3/4 of the season has been completely flipped upside down. It was, the Bandits were not a very good team. All these things were happening that we weren't expecting. And then in the last quarter of the season, everything's gone right back to where we thought it would be when we started. The Vancouver Warriors are in first place. The Buffalo Bandits are arguably the best team in the league right now. Like, everything is going to turn out more or less the way we expected it to be at the start of the season. So just fascinating to see that. And are the Bandits right now the favorite?
I wouldn't say the favorite. I think Vancouver is probably the favorite, but I do think that one kid with a podcast for half of the season, think probably should have been listening to him when he was saying the Bandits were still a good team even when they were 3-6.
They're not that good. They're fine.
They're that good. They are that good.
They're fine.
They're that good.
They're fine.
All right. The fact that they had one power play opportunity and they gave Saskatchewan 5 and still won this game. Also, I don't know if you watched this game, but the ending where they called out Paul Dawson's stick and they got him for like an illegal. I didn't have the sound on. I wasn't able to listen, but I was watching, so I have no idea what they were checking for. But absolutely hilarious that once Nick Weiss scored the goal and he's yelling at their bench, "You want to check my stick?" That's so funny. Like, shout out to Nick Weiss for that. It's so good.
Here's my thing. I understand the idea of like people being annoyed by stick calls. Like, I get it, but also, and especially in the NLL where I don't think it gets called. Like, I think lots of people have illegal sticks.
Probably.
And nobody cares. But in the larger scope of lacrosse, I don't mind someone calling for a stick check on something that could be illegal, because that's something that does directly impact the game. If you have an illegal stick, like, it can directly impact the game. And I don't think it's on that same level as what was it, Tillman doing the glove check on Ohio State a couple years ago. Like, that has nothing to do with anything. There is zero advantage for that. Like, that one is insane. And unfortunately for people who don't like stick check calls, that is a thing that has happened now, and everyone like me can be like, this is dumb, this is impactful. Like, That being said, like, I get it. I get why it's kind of cheap and goofy, again, especially in the NLL, where I don't think anybody really cares about stick checks. To do it in that last minute was kind of goofy, but it didn't ultimately really affect the game, because the goal happened, the game winning goal happened before the call. It just affected the last 25 seconds of the game, but didn't do much of anything. My question for you right here, right now, I'm pretty sure I asked you last time. I'm gonna ask you again. Saskatchewan is 4-1 in their last 5. Their losses are twice to the Bandits, once to the Nighthawks, and once to the Rock. How are we feeling about Saskatchewan right now?
I mean, they're still a good team, but I don't think if you ask them, they would say they're feeling as dominant as they were most of the year. I don't think they'd be, happy with how they're playing, even though a 1-goal loss to a team that I think is very, very good. I know some people disagree. So it's like, if they play this team in a 3-game series, I don't know who I'd pick right now. I think it is more of a toss-up. But I also right now, Vancouver feels like the team we thought they were going to be coming into the year, which is the sort of overwhelming favorite. That's not to say that if they were to lose to Sask, I'd be like, what? No way. I didn't like. Sask is still a very good team. I just think they've just had a few games here where it's like, oh, okay, like, if one of these bounces the wrong way in that first round and they're out of it, that to me would be shocking. Just because they've, like you said, they lost twice to Buffalo, right? They got to figure out how to beat them. Because at least as the way it's going, the way it's looking, Buffalo has a real chance to be playing them in a 3-game series. And they've now lost both at home and away to them. Again, Buffalo's a team that's been there, done that. They just beat them in the finals last year. And they're by a wide margin in that final game as well. So I still feel good about them as far as I think they'll make it out of the first round and have a good chance to win it all, but I just think it's going to be a tough battle if they can't figure out these kind of tight losses to a degree.
Yeah. Yeah. As it stands right now, and obviously there's still plenty of time for movement, they would play Ottawa in the first round.
Who Ottawa beat them. Granted, that was early on, but
yeah, that was week 2. Then, they didn't play again. Just kidding. I was gonna say then they won, but they didn't. They didn't play again. They do have Colorado this week and Toronto the next week. They have
a bye week, so technically, but yes, their next game.
Oh, I got you. You're right. I see.
But also, that's another thing to contribute though is Colorado has a chance to pass them this weekend in the standings because they don't play.
Mm-hmm.
So then at that point, when they come to play Colorado, that's just going to add an extra chip on their shoulder if that's the case. Because I'm assuming they're going to want to get the first or second seed. Maybe they'd feel better matchup-wise getting a third or something. But again, like we talked about, because those remaining kind of 4-ish spots, maybe 3-ish, can change so drastically, I don't know if they're going to really even be paying attention to matchups at that point. But I don't know.
Yeah, because, I would think if Colorado passes them, Georgia probably will, too. Georgia has a bye this week, so they wouldn't do it this weekend, but
yeah.
But they have a game in hand, so I would think maybe they pass them as well. And so you go from facing Ottawa to Buffalo if both of those teams pass you.
Yeah.
And that's a very different proposition for the first round. I might even argue that even if it's only Colorado that jumps them, that would, again, right now things could change, but right now would put them against the Rock, who they also lost to. They'll play them again, and we'll see what happens. But they also lost to the Rock, so maybe that's not even a game you want to play. So lots to pay attention to there. The second to last game of the weekend saw Las Vegas beat Calgary 10-9 in overtime. It's Calgary,
Well, it's Calgary, but hey, they put on a show in the fourth quarter to get this game tied. I'll give them credit for that. That was to go from being down 7-3, end of the third,
mm-hmm.
to tie. And honestly, that overtime took forever for Donville to finally cash in. But I don't know. It's like I've been saying all year. I think the Roughnecks are a fun young team that the next few years will be rough, but they'll end up on the better side of it. It's just going to be a minute. And for Vegas, they beat the team they're supposed to beat, I think, and they beat a team in a good spot to where now they're 7-7 and 4 more games where you're going to really need these wins. So UK also played outstanding, just 6 goals allowed in his 58 minutes. So love that for him. I would assume he ends up playing against Colorado this weekend, starting. I don't see why you'd go back to Landon Kells, but maybe they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like you said, don't want to pass up the opportunity to give love to Calgary because, like I've been saying since the preseason, I have so much fun watching that team. They're such a fun team to watch. They look like a young, kind of not quite ready team yet, and that's kind of what dictated where they are in the standings. but they've been in most of the games that they've been playing. They just don't win. My question before we move on to Las Vegas, at this point, what do you think, if you can put a finger on it, do they need? Like, what are we missing to get them to that next level?
Calgary?
Yeah, for Calgary. And I'm not even talking like championship level, but like to get them into the playoffs. Like what not necessarily a player or position or whatever, but like, what are we looking at here? Because again, they're such a fun team to watch. It feels like they have a lot of good pieces in the right places. It just hasn't all kind of figured. Is it just a gelling thing? Do we need another year? We need another level, another year of experience and maturity, or what do you think?
I mean, maturity is the easy answer. You have a lot of young guys playing. I think we're finally seeing the new regime with it's not, I recognize Tanner Cook's still there, Pace is still there, some other guys. So it's not like a fully phased out, but it is kind of, to a degree, a fully phased out. Malowski's gone. This is a new team, a new system, everything like that. So where they just need time to where their rookies continue to get better. And I mean, they have a lot of good pieces. They're all at different points of their career. Like Tanner Cook and Tyler Pace can carry you quite a bit, but you still are going to need contributions from Noah Manning and Braden Maia and all them. I also think Aiden Walsh will continue to improve. I was kind of high on him in Vancouver, even though he was a younger guy that I think is just going to have to take time being the starter. Obviously, that's the easy answer because, yeah, of course, every team wants to get better. But like you said, they're in every single one of these games. And to me, like, this team reminds me a ton of the Broncos a couple of years ago, where they were losing a lot of games, but they were in every single game. They were losing games by one score, and it was like, why can't we just get one more score to be on the other side of this? And that's exactly how this team feels, where even that Colorado game a couple weeks ago, I think they lost by 2, but that was a one-goal game because one of them was empty netter. One little thing, and that game's different. This game, same exact. I mean, they literally went 12 minutes in OT, and back and forth. Like, so that's, to me, is where it's just like, give them a couple years to kind of get the new system with Shooter there, Josh Sanderson, and them, and truthfully, I mean, you look at their young guys, and it's like, man, they're going to be really good. It's just they're rookies or they're second-year players or whatever it is. So, but a lot of it, I will say, that if there's one like definitive, it is going to rely on Aiden Walsh becoming a top-tier goalie, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And like you said, I don't think he's played poorly, but some of that might even be that they need to get a little bit better on the back end. But yeah, I think I just counted in. They have 6 games that were 2 goals or less this season. That were all losses. I take it back. One of them was a win. They beat the Wings by 1. All of the rest of them were losses. And then they have a 3-goal loss to Saskatchewan in the first weekend, which I remember them being right there in that game until very late. And then I think I think the Rush got 2 empty netters. So I mean, they were right there in that game. So there's a handful of games that they could have, with a bounce or 2 won, and they could be having a very different season. But it, like you said, it just feels like a level of experience and maturity that they need. That being said, they got 2 games against Oshawa before they finish the season against Colorado, which, I mean, let's say what that is. But I'd love to see what they do against Oshawa and back-to-back games in a home and away. So I had a question about Las Vegas, and I'm not sure I remember it at all. So we will move on, I guess, to the last game of the weekend, which saw Toronto lose to the Philadelphia Wings 9-12 in a bizarre game. That felt like a game that Toronto just like didn't even show up for. Like they were just going through. I should say, not everyone. CJ Kurse looked good. I know Sam English looked very good. But largely, it felt like the team didn't really show up for. Troy Holichuk did start over Nick Rose. I don't think he played poorly, but obviously didn't do enough to win the game. So
Yeah, I'm not sure why he started.
yeah,
I'm sure someone knows. I didn't get that. I was late joining this game, but I mean, Michael Harrison was saying that people were thinking that they were throwing the game to kind of help draft position. I don't know that I'm going to go that far. I just think that Philly just played harder. I think Brendan O'Neill having 7 points was a huge help. Lucas Nielsen with another 3-goal performance, or a 3-point performance rather, was good for them. I just realized Deacon Knott started because Damoud started this game. So disregard my comments about that earlier, but Damoud was great in this one as well. This isn't something we've seen from the Rock offense a ton, I feel like, where it's maybe more on the quiet side to a degree. Not by much. I mean, you still had 3 from Josh Dawick, 3 from Owen Hiltz, 4 assists from Mark Matthews, but yeah, of course, would like to see more from those guys, probably just because they're a team that's beaten good teams. So to lose to a bottom 3 team isn't great, but good for the Wings. I would call it positive momentum, but don't know that applies anymore. But it was positive for about 48 hours.
Yeah, they. I think Brad in Lax Lifers mentioned that the plan had been to start Holichuk in this game because it was, a bottom of the barrel kind of team, and they wanted him to get some minutes and keep him kind of, in like a game shape in case they need him in the playoffs. And so that I believe that's what he said. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that was what the idea with why Holichuk started. And again, I don't think he played poorly. It did feel weird because since Nick Rose got back, this has been his team, and he has not played there. He has not played and made a reason for why you would not start him in this game. So, it feels a little puzzling, even though I can kind of understand the idea of like maybe why. Brendan O'Neill did have 7 points for the Wings, so I guess that's a good sign. We talked about him only having 1 point earlier in the weekend. But whatever, I guess. I guess that is a good transition into the news that came out yesterday, right?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
Monday,
because this will come out tomorrow. That Comcast Spectrum, the owner of the Philadelphia Wings, is shutting down operation, transitioning operation, whatever you want to call it, of the Philadelphia Wings. They are looking for all suitable options. It should be noted that they are not. The team is not folding. Something is going to happen with the team. The Philadelphia Wings, as they in their current makeup, will exist somewhere. They might have a different name. They will certainly be in a different city, but they will still exist. But I'll let you go, because I know you probably have a little bit more to say, and I'll jump in. But yeah,
I mean, I don't have anything crazy to say. This was I don't really know. It was meant to be a secret. I think most people kind of knew. That's a lie. I know most people didn't know, because I talked to you guys about this, and people on the comment sections were freaking out as if it was the first they've heard of it. So I guess it wasn't known. I thought it was known. It was an open secret.
Like, people who knew, who were around the league knew, but the general fan didn't know. This has been a thing for 2 years now.
Yeah. I don't think many people knew what went into this season to keep them around and Joe Tsai's involvement.
Yeah.
And
has that been put out? Like, can we say that, or?
I'm gonna say that, and if I'm wrong, I'll gladly say I was wrong. That's what I've been told by numerous people, though.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I'm saying, like, has that been put out publicly? Like, I never like.
I'm sure someone has, but
yeah, I
mean, like, the NLL hasn't come out and been like.
Well, yeah, no, the NLL hasn't.
But
I swear I saw it somewhere, like in somebody's article that Joe Tsai had.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah.
I don't know whose article that was, but I swear somebody put out an article that explained the whole situation. That Comcast wanted out last year. At the end of last year, Joe Tsai basically put up the money for them. I definitely read that somewhere because I legitimately read he put up the money hoping that when they made the sale this year, he would get his money back.
Yeah. So I think we can say that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like Comcast for a variety of reasons, not even just from this situation. I think they're an awful company in general, from personal experiences with them. And I think they use their sports teams as pure assets. They don't care. It's been evident. Obviously, we know people who live in Philly and feel the same way about the way they use the Flyers. And so to see it unfold this way is pretty frustrating. Just not that I can blame them for, pointing towards the WNBA team coming there, but that's not happening for several more years. Their new stadium's not being done till 2031, I want to say. So like none of this makes sense right now as far as like, oh, we're just going to be out of it. What else was I going to say? What I told you guys the other day that people blaming Brett Frude and the NLL for this.
The NLL.
If you want to blame the previous commissioner and his administration for maybe expanding too rapidly, prioritizing quick money over stability, I'm on board with that. Totally fine if that's what you want to say. The idea that Brett Frude can magically tell Comcast, no, you can't sell them, you need to keep them there, is ridiculous. There's nothing he can do. If you want to be mad at Brett Frude for other things, I will gladly listen to those arguments as well. But this is not one of those situations, from what I understand. If someone on the back end wants to message me or us and prove that to be otherwise, feel free. But the idea that, like, they can do anything about it is ridiculous. Now, that said, it is a bad look for the league. I don't like that this is now, the fourth American franchise in 3 years, something like that, to have some type of relocation, potentially folding situation. I mean, it's tough because as someone who kind of champions the whole put teams in sports markets thing, they're in a prime sports market. It's not working. Why is that? Is it? I know people were making arguments that it's because they weren't winning, and so people don't want to go to the games when they aren't winning, and that's fine. I get that. If that's the case, though, there are a lot of markets that I think still would go to games because they don't have teams, and I think the two places that are proposed, from what I understand, don't have, many pro teams or whatever. I don't like the Trenton situation. I think that's an awful, awful, awful place to go. From an outside perspective, I could be proven wrong, but I just don't. I especially when I know people who live in Jersey and said they won't be able to make that trip to Trenton to watch them. So I forget what was the other one that was put out there today by the Loose Mesh guys in Pennsylvania.
The other one was Lehigh Valley.
Lehigh Valley. That's a new one, like we talked about pre-pod. I hadn't heard that till today, so
yeah,
maybe that works out.
The rumors were essentially that like Trenton was the spot, but then obviously over the past year and a half or so, Montreal has been out there, Edmonton had been out there, and then today they made the announcement yesterday, and then today Loose Mesh is like, Lehigh Valley's in, and everyone's like, wait, what? Yeah. What are you talking about? I did want to say, people want to say they didn't put a winning team, and I do fault Comcast for that. I don't think they even tried. I don't think they were
No.
trying to put a winning team together. This was, like you said, this was like a feather in their cap. This was a business transaction. The Wings were an asset that they had. They were not trying to put a winning team together. They relied on, not that there's anything wrong with these guys, because some of them are very good players. Some of them are my favorite players, but they relied on local guys like Michael Sowers. They relied on name recognition of guys like Brennan O'Neill and stuff, guys that had little to no box experience. And again, they have turned into very good box players, but I don't feel like you can have a team full of guys who don't really play box lacrosse and have a successful box lacrosse franchise. But even with that being said, the attendance wasn't that bad. They were about middle of the road. They were outdrawing Oshawa. They were outdrawing Ottawa. They were outdrawing several other U.S. teams. They were only, you're going to talk about putting a good team together. The Saskatchewan Rush, they're only averaging about 300 less people than the Saskatchewan Rush, who until this weekend were sitting at the top of the league. So the idea that this has anything to do with attendance or them not making money, they own the building. They're not paying rental fees for it. They're not, their overhead is probably amongst the lowest of NLL teams out there, because they own the building. They're not paying rental. They're not having to worry about any of that kind of stuff. They basically have to pay the team and turn the lights on. So this is not, like you said, it's not a Brett Fruit thing. It's not an NLL thing. It doesn't look good for them, but it's not their fault. Like you said, if you want to blame the people before them that put the teams together and expanded somewhat rapidly, obviously too rapidly, because I believe they expanded 6 teams and 4 of them are gone or relocating. Something like that.
I know Jack, is it Goods, put out something like that. Obviously Rochester ended up being safe, but even that, the fact that got to that point.
Yep.
And that's where, that's the other part of this too, is people are obviously skeptical of what's to come. It could be a situation like Rochester, I think, with Seneca Nation stepping up. I think Seneca Nation actually cares about the sport.
Yep.
Not just the league or we have this team. They care about the sport in general, which is helpful. And that's where I will give credit to Brett Fruit I do think he is trying to find owners in general who care about what this could become with the sport and the people in it. Whereas teams or companies like Comcast or the people who own PCLC literally saw it as, well, maybe we can make some money on this and dump it, which is not that's not good for the sport, good for the league, whatever. And that's where I just feel like it was overlooked when bringing the Wings back in 2017. So I don't know. I don't think they're gonna fold. I'm hoping that if they could find a way to stay in Philly, that would be sick for the people I know there. Because I do feel bad for those people and their fans. Because like you said, it's weird how we talk about attendance where for some teams, 5,000 is awful. And I can't believe they're only drawing 5,000. But then, it's a packed barn. Well, the barn holds 5,000.
Right.
It's just like how we talk about college NCAA rankings. We hold some teams to this standard, other teams to this standard, and they say, well, this is good and this is bad. None of that makes sense to me to say that no one wants to go to their games. I got their emails all year long. I was on their email list, so I know the deals they were running. I know maybe marketing wasn't great for their stars. I'm willing to listen to that argument, but they did a lot of good things there as well. But when you have people that don't believe in you at all, not really much you can do as a franchise. You can only put out so many, ticket deals that bring in the new fans. And honestly, they play a lot. maybe the schedule contradicts this, but it feels like they play a lot of games at weird hours. That like, why would you go there when, the Eagles are playing and they have a tailgate? Or I remember one of their games I think got moved to didn't it get moved to like a Monday night or something like that, something weird.
Something about that sounds right.
Where it's like, how are we really expecting things like that to survive when that's what we're doing? And so I'm just ranting at this point, but it's just one of those things. It's just like, it's frustrating to see, and I'm hoping that over the next however many years that Brett Fruit is with us, with the league, not alive. Sorry, I realized that sound after I said it. I'm hoping that while he's with the league, he can turn this around to where it's like, okay, we have a good collective ownership, group that all cares about what we're building here, and it's not just, you'll pay money now. Also, I don't even have to say this, but this is also a good learning opportunity for the Rebels and their team to be like, I know they've talked about owners recently, to say, hey, we need to make sure that we are dialed in on who we're selling these teams to. We can't just be jumping at the first check that we see and be like, oh, that's good money, because not all money's good money.
Yep. I hate that. I'm obviously not going to say it, but I hate that we both know someone that made a similar point, and it was like, you're kind of right, but also like, you're not the dude. You're not the dude.
The point was right. The delivery was very wrong.
That's right. Exactly. So, let's move on to this coming weekend. We got Vegas taking on Colorado, Rochester taking on Halifax, San Diego heading over to Toronto. That was not easy to say. Vancouver going to Buffalo, and Oshawa heading to Calgary. Lots of cross nation or cross continent, I guess I should say, matchups. What are we looking at here? It's a fairly good slate.
Yeah. Everyone that's kind of in the playoff race for the most part is playing this weekend, aside from Ottawa. But curious to see. That first game I think is probably bigger for Vegas than anything, just because Colorado already clinched. But you do want to see them. I was on Graham Parrow's website this morning, NLLstats.com, for those that aren't already tuned into that, and was using his could happen feature, which is every year it's my favorite thing to do on this website. And Colorado does have, I didn't do every scenario, but I think they kind of have to win out and get a little bit of help to get the 1 seed. So from that perspective, that's a big game for them as well. But also Vegas being 7-7, that's huge. Buffalo, Vancouver as well, with both those teams fighting for those top 4 spots, is going to be good. I'm really excited to see those 2 middle games, though. Just with Rochester being right there and having 18 goals last week, can they maintain some type of that offensive firepower? And then San Diego, Toronto those are 2 teams that I think can pop out anytime they want, pretty much, but also put up a bad game. So that's going to be exciting. As for the last game of the weekend, I hope both teams get out healthy.
I think that game means basically nothing, obviously, in terms of the season, but it could be a really good game.
Yes,
just
as a standalone game, it's going to be good. And truthfully, right, Calgary's going to want to win that game because they know they don't want Toronto to get the number 1 pick. So from that perspective, yes. And honestly, it just hit me too. Oshawa's going to want to lose, assuming they own their first round pick, because they get a higher pick as well.
I think I saw they don't. I think I saw that Philly is the only one of those bottom 3 teams that owns their own pick. I'm trying to remember where I saw that. Was it on NLL Stats? Is that on there? I was looking at something earlier because I was looking at where
so I have
Calgary was.
Who we're talking about? Oshawa? Yeah, Ottawa has Oshawa's.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say I remember looking at those bottom 3 and seeing Philly had their pick, but the other 2 didn't have their pick.
Okay, then scratch that. They're both gonna want to win. That makes this game even better. even though it doesn't affect anything literally. Yeah, Georgia right now would pick back-to-back in the first round. Assuming that swarmitup.com is correct, they'd pick back-to-back, and Vegas would pick back-to-back as well.
That might have been where it was. Swarm It Up's pretty good. NLL ranking NLL stats. NLLstats.com. Swarm It Up. 50 feet of crap. NLL.com. Yeah?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
That's fair. All right. I feel like NLL.com should be so much better. Like, it just doesn't work for no reason.
They should just hire Graham to do it. I think he'd do a great job. And
yeah, if they just took like his data and the way that he runs it and just like reskinned it so it looks pretty, it'd be great. It'd be great. Like you said, the could happen feature is incredible.
It's the
PLL
best.
needs that. Like, they all need that.
I could spend all day just clicking random results and be like, what would happen if I flipped this one? Oh, 5 different things happen. And, you know.
Dude, on NLLstats.com for the PLL, I would never leave. Like, I would just be on it.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to have a podcast because you'd just be asking hypothetical questions about, well, if these 7 teams all went...
Listen, that's what I'm here for. That's
literally, right now, I have one up of the top 3 teams finishing 13-5. And
tiebreakers?
And Saskatchewan's not even in those 3.
Oh, crap.
Like, that's one of the scenarios that I was messing with today.
So it would be Colorado, Georgia, and Vancouver?
Yeah, except it's, at least in this current one, it's Colorado, Vancouver, Georgia. If I flipped a Vancouver or Colorado game, those 2 would switch. But yeah, I was going through and I was like, so actually, on a slight tangent, but the bottom 3 playoff teams in this scenario would be Toronto, Vegas, and Ottawa. And Calgary would finish 10th.
What? What did you do?
Yeah, I have in this one Calgary, San Diego, and Halifax all finishing 6 and 12.
I love that you're like, oh yeah, if there was a PLL one, you would never leave it. You'd be doing all this what if.
You said that. You said that. I just said you'd be talking about it the whole time.
Here you are creating crazy scenarios.
That's not even crazy. That's a good scenario right there. I think having Sask at 4 is great.
Having Sask, I mean, it might be at 4 legitimately.
Yeah, I tried to be mostly accurate on paper of what I think would happen, but sometimes I like to just mess around with like, what would happen if Philly upset Vancouver?
I mean, listen, the way the season's going, I don't even think I'd be shocked anymore.
I'm gonna screenshot this and see how accurate it ends up playing out.
That'd be so funny.
I'm gonna be like, wow, I actually was pretty spot on there. Oh.
Yeah, that'd be so funny. All right, let's move out of the NLL and head over to the college game. Another week, another number 1 goes down as UVA beat Notre Dame 11-9. Listen, I didn't think Notre Dame was necessarily a number 1, and before any Notre Dame fans come at me, it had less to do with Notre Dame and more with just the fact that, like, I don't know that there is a number 1 team this year. Like, everybody feels like a 4th or 5th ranked team in any normal year. That being said, nobody had UVA beating Notre Dame. Nobody. And if you say you did, you're a freaking liar. You're a freaking liar, Brandon. I don't even really know what to say about this game. You know, Brennan Millen has been incredible all year. McCabe Millen was great in this game. Truett Sunderland, I feel like it was the first time I saw him show up for a game. Notre Dame didn't look great. Like, I don't know. People like to come at me. We talked about it with Richmond. We'll probably talk about it again because I'm pretty sure they play this weekend. I wrote that down. Yeah, Notre Dame Richmond is this weekend. So I'm sure we'll be talking about it next week as well. I just don't feel like any of these teams are like truly number 1 team. Someone has to be number 1. I get that. And I had no problem with Notre Dame being number 1 last week. I got no problem with Richmond being number 1 this week. Someone has to be number 1. I understand. Nobody feels like a true number 1 team. if you're asking me who I think the favorite to win the national championship is right now, right here, right now, it's Syracuse. And I've felt that way for several weeks now.
It's the wrong orange team.
I know we picked Princeton. I know. And to be fair, those are the two teams I have as like the national championship favorites right now. But I don't think either of them is the number one team in the country. Like nobody I think has been that good where there's like a clear number one. There are several teams that like you slot in at number one and you got to go, okay, I get that, I guess. But there's no one that I'm like, oh yeah, this team is number one. So UVA winning is a shock, but like I'm not terribly surprised because you weren't here last week. It felt like Notre Dame was the number one team in the country because they had played some low end top 20 teams and won fairly decently. But it felt like they were the number one because they beat Ohio State. But Ohio State was only being considered that good because they only lost by 1 to Notre Dame. And it was like, this is that circular logic here that like doesn't hold up. You know, like you can't be good because you beat that team, but they're good because they played you close. Like that doesn't make any sense. And so I just feel like a lot of these teams, we'll talk about it in a second. Harvard dropped this weekend too. I'm going to say this and people are going to come at me when they win, but I'm not exactly expecting Richmond to beat Notre Dame this weekend. They might. I'm not saying they won't. They are a good team. People still comment on that Richmond video from like the UVA, what is that, like week 2? People still comment and they're like, oh, like yesterday someone was like, Richmond is a good team. And I'm like, you're not, listen to the video. No one said they're not a good team. Like, what is the problem?
I don't know why they can't read when it was uploaded, because even if we were wrong in that video now, like things change. That's kind of how modern day events, current events happen.
Yeah. So yeah, UVA is what UVA is, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't realize when Dre texted us about that game that it was actually already over.
Yeah,
because my game hadn't started, so I thought their game was just starting, and he was just amped up for the game, and that's why I was like, oh, here he goes. And then I checked it, and I was like, oh wait, what? I was like, wow.
Yeah. I knew it was close, but it wasn't until he texted that I was like, oh, dang. Like, dang, okay. But, let's move over to Duke Syracuse, I guess. If we must. Duke goes into the Dome and loses by 1, 16-15. To Syracuse. What did I tell you the last time you were on the show about Duke Syracuse? Doesn't matter who's up or who's down. It's always a 1-goal game. Almost always a 1-goal game. And when it's in the Dome, it's almost always a Syracuse win. I will say slightly encouraged by Duke's performance. Because I genuinely, especially after that Denver game, I genuinely didn't know what to expect coming into that. I thought we would have some more opportunities on offense than Denver had given us. But I didn't know what that meant. Could Syracuse have won 18-10 and we got more opportunities? Sure. Like that could have been a way that this game went down. But, Max Lowe had 4 points. Michael Ortlieb had 4. Ben Johnson had 3. I love watching Ben Johnson, but Joey Spallina had 6. The thing that is crazy about this game. Let me see if I can find the exact stat. Syracuse in this game had 13 assists on 16 goals. They had 13 assists. Duke on 15 goals had 5 assists. Duke was playing almost everything one-on-one. And Syracuse was sharing that ball like crazy. Some of Have you seen the highlights of this game? I know you were shooting, so I know you didn't get to watch it live. But have you seen any of the highlights? Some of Syracuse's goals are insane. They had a one-handed underhand cross crease pass to the backside for a goal.
Wow.
Some of their passing was like Globetrotter-esque. They look incredible. And like I said, Syracuse is my favorite to win the national championship right now. Not because of this game. I've had them up there for a while. But I come away feeling fairly good about Duke. I wanted to win. I'm not saying that. But we down a goal, rode hard, got the ball back, and called a timeout. We had possession with 25 seconds left and the opportunity to tie the game. Coming out of the timeout, we set a moving pick. And some people, I feel like I want to talk about this because people were like debating online about it. I'm a Duke fan. I am a diehard. I've been a Duke fan for 30 years. I watched that play and I was like, this is what you guys are arguing about? It's clearly a moving pick. Now, he doesn't make a whole lot of contact, and in that sense, I can kind of understand, I guess, a little bit what people are saying it was the issue. But I'm like, he basically dives at the defender's knees. I'm like, it is clearly a moving pick. So, with the opportunity to tie the game and force overtime, I can't even say Syracuse caused a turnover or anything. Like, we shot ourselves in the foot. So I'm encouraged by that, but I'm also like, these two teams always play close games. So part of me is like, how much of it is just that? How much of it is just our system matches up against their system very well? We always play tight games, and next week when we play UVA, it's not going to look like that. But
I hope it doesn't look like that against UVA, because if it does, then you got a problem.
We'll get to that.
That's fair. That's 100% a fair statement. That's not even anti-Duke. That's just a fair.
No. I agree.
But yeah, I don't know. I can't say anything bad because it's the same situation Denver was in against Syracuse 2 weeks ago as well, where you have the chance to tie it and you do something stupid with it. So, I don't know. It doesn't look like a lick of defense was played, but
I will say, for two teams, though I will also say, I think this does often happen when you get two good defenses. For whatever reason, you get two good defenses playing each other, and everybody just lights it up and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I will say, watching that game, knowing that I like both of these defenses, I think they're both good defenses. I was like, dude, what is happening? The one thing is, I don't think any of the goalies played super well. Patrick Jamison, the starter for Duke for I think this is his third season as the starter for Duke. He got pulled. Early.
I was wondering why Henry was in there.
He got pulled early, and honestly, I think it might have been a mistake. I think they probably should have left him in. Henry Blake ended up with decent numbers, but he was at 14. I think he gave up 7 goals in 9 shots. Wow. And then started making saves to get Duke back into it. But just instantly he was like, crap. But then, Jimmy McCool, who I think is a very good goalie, was at 42%. I felt like it had less to do with the defense, although I don't think the defenses were amazing today when this game was played. But I felt like a lot of it was goalies. That being said, going back to Duke for a second, they caused more turnovers. They had less turnovers. They put more shots on goal. They did everything that you would want them to do, except for maybe a few more assists. I would love to see a few more assists. They won the face-off battle. It just was one of those things. Like I said, it's the Dome, and for whatever reason, we just can't seem to beat them. I think we're 1-7 now in the last 8 against Syracuse in the Dome. We just can't beat them in the Dome for whatever reason. So, Brian's got stuff to say, and again, his team won. He earned the right to talk a little bit, but some of that stuff he was saying was crazy talk. We'll just leave it at that. Moving over, I don't even know that there's much to talk about in this game, but Georgetown put a hurting on Denver, 17-5.
To put it lightly.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where, like, I think we both feel fairly good about that. Again, probably not a national title like contender, but a pretty good team. They've. I know earlier in the season you didn't think they were a top 20 team, but I think we
still
both
don't.
Either.
I don't think they're top 20.
Still?
No, because they don't ever play a consistent brand of lacrosse. It's again as standalone games, sure. The Syracuse game, absolutely. I think they even moved up in the rankings after that by a spot or two, and it's like, okay, sure. Like,
I thought they looked good against Duke too.
They kind of. I don't like the fact that they again put up sub 10, but sure. But like then stuff like this happens where I'm like, so you just forgot how to play lacrosse completely, or like and mind you, this is coming straight off the heels of me saying to DJ, I don't think Georgetown's definitively better than Denver, and Brian saying Georgetown's going to go make the Final Four. And I was like, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? Apparently this is what they saw. They can do this.
I'm not going with a Final Four.
I'm still not going there either, but I'm not sure what happened, but literally start to finish, it was just like, well, you're not winning this game. I didn't even pull up the stat because they don't even matter. It was that bad. Like, it was, and it like at one point in the third or fourth quarter, it was like goal after goal after goal after goal. I was like, I'm not even going to try to get Denver's offense because they can't get the ball. Like,
well, what's insane to me is Grayson Manning gave up 16 goals in this game. He made 14 saves. Like, dude was just getting peppered.
He was. And they kind of just got, like, anywhere on the field Georgetown wanted to be, they were.
Yeah.
Middle, outside shots, everything.
Which is funny because one of the things that I thought has looked so good for Denver, even when they haven't looked amazing, is their defense. Their defense has looked very good. I feel like they are one of the teams that plays the best team defense. They don't necessarily have standout poles or defenders individually, but they just play such a good team defense that they look good. But the flip side of that is Georgetown is a team, to Brian's credit about them making the Final Four, when they're on, they are on. They are good. The problem is they just don't do it. Them and Penn State are really similar teams in that, like, when they show up, they are lights out. But when they don't, they could lose to pretty much anybody in the country. So just a weird game all around. My question would be, was this just a weird game? And I'm not expecting an answer because I don't know that we could answer it. But my question would be, is this a weird game? If we played this game 2-3 more times, would this kind of result repeat itself at all, or was this just that, like, outlier game? I don't know.
We just watched them go toe-to-toe with Syracuse a week prior. 2 weeks prior, or whatever it was. So I would say outlier, but then at the same time, was the Syracuse game an outlier? Maybe not, because they did the same thing similar to Duke, although at a lesser scale offensively, but
I thought a better scale defensively. So yeah.
So from that standpoint, it's like, okay, even if you don't, okay, we all agree Syracuse is a national title favorite, basically. Great. If you're going to lose, I sound repetitive and dumb for this, but if you're going to lose, that's how you want to lose. You go play Duke, who, to some, aren't title contenders. To others, maybe they are. Still a very good game that I think you feel like if it was played again, maybe you have a chance to win.
Right.
So to come into this and, like, how does Cody Milosky have put up a 0 spot? At what point do we just say we're force-feeding him the ball? He needs more than 4 shots. Like, someone's got to get going. And I just felt like it never like that never happened. It was just
Yeah.
like it was like, oh, we're just gonna lose and whatever. I mean, they put up 7 in the second, and most of those were consecutive. Towards the end there, and once they had the momentum, man, they just, I mean,
Yeah.
Denver, there was nothing Denver could do, and like you said, Grayson Manning still put up a ton of saves, but still ended up coming out of the game because they were just like, what else are we supposed to do? Like, there's nothing much. I will say it was kind of cool. Dylan Hess was in attendance, so for him to see that type of game for him, I'm sure it was fun, but.
For whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Yale beat Cornell 13-12 in what I would say was probably a pretty big upset. I don't know that there's a ton to really talk about in this game, but that's another team that I have felt like was maybe a bit inflated. People, I think, were riding the high of last season, and it's like, yeah, there ain't no CJ Kirst on this team. I love Ryan Goldstein. I think William Firth is a William Firth. Is that the Firth?
Is it William or is it Willem?
It's Willem. My brain don't say Willem.
I don't know. I don't know. I just know his last name's Firth.
No, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Willem Firth. But like, I like those guys, but I just don't think that and again, because people are gonna come at me again. I'm not saying they're a bad team. I'm just saying they're not the national championship caliber team that a lot of people thought they would be coming in to this season. And losing to this Yale team, I think, is evidence of that. Even if again it's a conference matchup against an opponent that was always going to kind of play you a bit tougher than a regular 4-4 team might. Losing to this Yale team at home, like I'm. You saw them against Denver, and you said you didn't think that they were, top 5 team.
Yeah, and I still don't, because I don't think they're not consistent enough is the issue. They're not a bad team.
No,
like we could pick and choose. I mean, they looked good against Princeton in their 2-goal win. They looked solid against Richmond in their 1-goal loss. Obviously beat Denver by 4. Like, they have times where it's like, hey, you actually look like a pretty good team. But like in a tournament scenario where it's one and done, I can't trust you to. And that's actually the same argument I had against Brian to an extent with Georgetown, is I can't trust you to go win.
Yep.
I can trust you to get a win, maybe 2 if we're lucky in a row, but like that's where I'm at with Cornell, where it's like on the right day they're taking down number 3 Princeton. On the wrong day they're losing to Yale.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, so much of that Princeton game felt like that Princeton-Penn State game at the beginning of the season, where they jumped on them early, got up big, and then Princeton just couldn't get enough to get back into it. Yep. So, again, not to make excuses, they won the game. They earned the win of the game, but if not for that fast start, maybe that game goes a different way, and Princeton is able to get back into it. So, whatever. Another inter-conference game that went perhaps a surprising direction, although perhaps not. I'd say less surprising. Penn State beat Ohio State. Maybe the surprising part is how they beat them. 13-6. Absolutely smacked them. Given that I think, generally speaking, most people would say Ohio State is the best or one of maybe a top 3 defense in the country. Getting pushed around like that by that Penn State team was interesting. I don't know what to, like we talked about with Georgetown. This Penn State team is so goofy. Like, I don't know They lost to Villanova and Navy. Admittedly, those are early season losses, and then they lost to North Carolina, which is a respectable loss. But they feel like a team that could win the Big Ten. They have Hopkins, which they'd probably be favored against Michigan and Rutgers. I think they're favored in all three of those games. They could go undefeated through the Big Ten and win the Big Ten and still not be a very good team. And again, in terms of the national championship type picture. So they're kind of funky, but like Georgetown, when they play well, they are very good, very tough to beat. It's just a little bit of which team's going to show up.
Yep, no notes.
No notes. Fair enough. The last kind of big game of the weekend saw UNC absolutely demolish number 4 Harvard. Another one where I feel like the result isn't so surprising as much as the way that UNC won. That 10-goal win feels crazy. Owen Duffy looked great, had 4 goals. Dominic Petramala didn't really do much in this game. That's been one of the big questions all season is what happens when those two don't combine and go off. But at least for the sake of this Harvard game, they definitely did their business. But Harvard was another one of those teams that I felt was being propped up almost exclusively on that Syracuse win and didn't have a whole lot else under their belt to really hang their hat on. And again, somebody's got to be number 4. I got no problem with them being number 4. I think most of rankings will work itself out throughout the rest of the season. So I have no problem with them being number 4. I just didn't think they were actually a top 5 team in the country. So again, not exactly a hugely surprising result, though the score line definitely felt a bit of a surprise. So the question that I have for you, we've seen it all season. I think Notre Dame is one of if not the longest serving number 1, and I think they were number 1 for 2 weekends. Is the number 1 cursed? Is Richmond going to be number 1 next week?
Yep.
All right.
I'm not sold on Notre Dame. Just to be honest, I'm just not.
That's my issue too. Is like I'm not sold on Richmond, but I'm not sold on Notre Dame either.
No. The hard part is I'm just gonna be stubborn about it and just be like, doesn't matter how many games they win. It seems like I'm just like I don't know. You know. So maybe as they play more games, better competition, maybe I'll feel some type of way about it. But I don't know. It's always hard when I don't feel like you've played crazy competition, but you're put at number 1 because, you played really well in those games, regardless of who you're playing, which is fair. You do need to still win those games. But it's also just like you're saying, would it shock me if Richmond won? Not at all. Not in the slightest bit. Like, I mean, Ohio State lost to them by 1, was it, a few weeks back?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of thought that was a spot they would have lost to Ohio State there. So maybe I do need to give them more credit. But again, and then part of this too is probably just that they don't have the star names that they had the last however many years, which does work against them. I recognize that's an irrational reasoning, but if they had Cavs on their team and guys like that, it'd be much easier to be like, well, yeah, of course they're number 1 because look at who. But now it's like they just got a group of guys that play good lacrosse together.
Yeah. I mean, they've got some guys, but I mean, Josh Yago is their leading scorer, and I think there's been a decent amount made about him being the Air Force transfer and technically being an active duty member of the Space Force right now. But otherwise, I don't think that he has that stature. Not that he doesn't deserve it, not that he shouldn't have it, but he just doesn't have it. Like, people just don't know about Josh Yago that much. and then it only kind of goes down from there in terms of like name recognition. The only guy that people know on this team is Sean Light, and probably I guess isn't what's his name's little brother on this team, Faison. I don't actually see him on this roster.
Should be.
I thought he was. Oh, there he is, Dylan Faison.
Oh, sorry.
You good, man? He's got one ground ball this season. And that's it. One ground ball, one caused turnover, sorry, and one turnover.
How many games has he played?
It looks like he played Bellarmine, Maryland, Ohio State, and Virginia. That's 4.
Oh, his Notre Dame only has 3 games for him. Interesting.
I wonder if they have. What's the game missing? Virginia?
No, they have Bellarmine, however you say it, Maryland, and Virginia are the 3 on there.
Interesting. Okay, so it's the Ohio State game that they don't have, that IL has. But let's
either
be
way,
fair,
3 or 4
freshman. Like, I'm not trying to crap on his career. He's a true freshman. That's fine. I just was trying to say he's probably the most well-known. It's Sean Light and then him.
Yeah.
And then a gap and probably Josh Yago and then no one else. So I think that's a fair statement to make, that like we're down on them probably somewhat because they don't have the game. Even though I love Josh Yago, I think you have talked about him before. Because he played at Air Force, so he's close to you. You've shot his games before. I, being an Air Force guy, have known of him. But yeah, in terms of like the general fan base, yeah, I think it's fair to say that. And it just feels like one of those weird seasons where, like I said, nobody really feels like a truly dominant team. Syracuse and Princeton, we both talked about national championship contenders. But if they lose in the second round, are either one of us going to be really all that shocked? No. They've proven they can be beaten. They can, and they can be beaten by quote unquote lesser teams. So, yeah. It's not like Syracuse's only loss is to Princeton and vice versa. Like, no, they've been beaten by lesser teams. So, let's look ahead to this weekend real quick. UVA plays Duke. If anyone knows me, they know that UVA was my first like real team in college lacrosse. I didn't even know Duke had a team when I started watching lacrosse. The first game I ever saw was the 2003 national championship, the Tillman Johnson game. Incredible. Loved watching that team. So the UVA Duke game is always really fun for me. But UVA has not beaten Duke in the regular season since I believe it's 2004. It's like 19 straight games that Duke has won. So, going to be interesting to see how that one goes, especially with UVA, knocking off Notre Dame this weekend and Duke losing by 1 to Syracuse. I still feel like both of these teams are teams that we're still trying to figure out exactly how good they are. So it will be interesting to see what they do this weekend. Penn State plays Hopkins. I'm not even sure that that's a huge game anymore. Hopkins is just so far down. But Penn State, like we talked about, can be good. They can be bad. Depending on who shows up, that could be a really big one. Obviously, the big game of the weekend is Notre Dame Richmond. It does now have a home. It was announced for ACC Network Extra. Is that right? I think.
Couldn't tell you.
I think it's I think it's ACC Network Extra, which means you'll be able to watch it on ESPN Plus. I think that's one of those weird ones where like it depends on your cable package in order to get it. Like you have to have ACC Network. I don't think it just comes with ESPN Plus. I don't know. That whole thing is weird. Anyway, there's a way to watch it now. There hadn't been before. Syracuse takes on UNC, which could arguably be the bigger game of the weekend. And then Ohio State plays Maryland. Not a huge game, I think, in terms of the national focus, but going to be very big in terms of determining who wins the Big Ten. So anything you're looking at there?
Nothing, nothing specific that wasn't already mentioned.
Yeah.
We only have one day of games this week? Or is my website just messed up?
No. Well, there's one game on Sunday. Rutgers plays Michigan.
Okay, that one's not loading for me. But yeah, I don't know. Denver Nova, I guess.
I thought about do I put this Denver Nova game down? It could be a good one. Nova beat who Nova beat? They beat somebody earlier this season. Who was that? Let me see. They beat Penn State. Yeah. They beat Penn State in the first game of the season. So, you never know. I wouldn't expect that to happen, but weirder things have happened, I guess. So, always something to consider. But yeah, give me a pick. Notre Dame, Richmond, and Syracuse, UVA or UNC.
Wait. A pick between who now?
Notre Dame and Richmond. That's one game.
Richmond.
And Syracuse, UNC.
Syracuse.
I'm trying to think of who I even want to win these games.
It's those two, man.
I think I have reasons to want all four of those teams to win and reasons for all four of those teams to lose. So, okay, I'm just going to I'll go Notre Dame, mostly to be obstinate of you, or opposite of you, I guess. And then, I'm not picking UNC. So we'll go Syracuse. we'll match on that one. See what happens. The last thing to talk about before we get out of here is that the WLL's supplemental draft happened last week on Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember. I'm not going to stand up here and pretend like we are super knowledgeable about the women's game apart from what has transpired on the WLL fields so far in the two championship series and the All-Star game last summer. We don't know a ton about college players and stuff, so I'm not going to blow smoke and pretend like we do. That being said, we've really enjoyed the WLL, so I felt like it was worth mentioning, and I do know a little bit. First of all, it's a supplemental draft, so sometimes those can be a little funky. This was a snake draft. I'd never heard of a pro league doing a snake draft. That was interesting. But Sam Apuzzo was the number 1 overall pick to the Maryland Charm. That was pretty much everyone kind of assumed that was going to happen. The other note that I saw was that they picked up Nicole Humphrey, which is the oldest Humphrey kid. Chloe is the one that's still at Carolina that was the freshman that won the Tewaaraton last year. Ashley was the one that played for the Charm, who I thought should have won the Tewaaraton last year, who played for the Charm in the championship series this year. And then the oldest Humphrey was picked up in the supplemental draft by the Charm. The Boston Guard picked up Boston College duo Kinsey Kent and Rachel Clark. They also picked up Savannah Schweitzer, Delaney Schweitzer's younger sister, I believe. Interesting. The Boston College to the Boston Guard pipeline remains strong. They are teaming back up with Charlotte North, who I believe both of them played on the national championship winning teams with. The California Palms picked up Marie McCool, as well as several other people. I don't know who they are, so I'm not going to comment too much on that. And then the New York Charging picked up Delaney Schweitzer, probably the one team that she could go to that she will not ever see the field. I was looking at their goalie room right now. It's Madison Doucette, who I think is the best goalie in the world right now in women's lacrosse. Molly La Liberty, who is also a very good goalie. And then now Delaney Schweitzer. All of them are 26 or younger. And I was like, oh yeah, you're never gonna play. And it was also interesting because Maryland Charm, their starting goalie is Kaylee Waters, and I'm like, I mean, she hasn't exactly lit the championship series on fire, so why not pick up Delaney Schweitzer? And then the Boston Guard only have one goalie on their roster, though they are expected to pick up Shea Dolce from Boston College. So the college draft takes place 2 weeks from Wednesday, which is tomorrow for us, but will be today for anyone listening. It is on YouTube, and it is the day after the PLO draft on April 14th. So yeah, there's that. Cool. The teams are at 19 now. They will have 4 rounds of picks in the collegiate draft to get to 23, which is where they'll be for the start of camp. Anything to add?
I won't pretend to know too much about everything that went on.
Yeah. I will say I have been somewhat following Kylie O'Miller-Reese's. She's doing Adam Lamberti's job for the WLL, and
okay,
with all due respect to Adam, I know we give him crap. I think he does a great job by and large with the PLL draft stuff. So this is not a shot at him in any way whatsoever. Kylie O'Miller stuff, I'm like, holy crap, dude. Again, it might have something to do with the fact that, like, I don't come in with any kind of preconceived notions of who should be or shouldn't be like I do with Adams, and I can kind of combat it. I love reading Kylie stuff. It's great. If you haven't, check it out. Not just you, Brandon, but like anyone listening, check out her stuff. She's got several articles up on WLL website that are great. And I feel like I'm learning some. Again, not going to pretend like I know a lot about the college lacrosse scene on the women's side, but definitely learning some from watching them. Also interesting that there's a girl for Army who is number 4 on her big board, which is interesting to think about the issues that like the men have on with academy teams. And I wonder how much that will play in. But anyway, random tangential thought. Before we get out of here, man, what you got coming up this week?
Just Mammoth on Friday night this week.
Just Mammoth. All right.
As well, that's the weekend. I have something else tomorrow, but that's unrelated. So, yeah, we'll see. Found out there's a small card show this weekend. So I may at least check it out. The bigger one is the week after, so I don't really want to go and spend too many dollars there this weekend, but I am kind of curious just to see what else is out there. Our good friend Kyle Bennett taught me today about a Phillies prospect that I think I might want to invest in a little bit, you know what I mean?
In terms of like when you say you might want to invest, is that like prospecting, like you want to invest because you think he might turn in, or
yeah.
is it, or okay,
yes,
all right. I didn't know if it was like, oh, he's from Denver, and there was some other kind of connection. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And the worst comes to worst, if the dude doesn't pan out, I'll just send Kyle the cards and be like, here you go. Merry Christmas.
That's fair. That's fair. Nothing too wrong with that. I'm trying to think what I got going on. Duke's out of the NCAA tournament, so not much of a reason to watch that, I guess. Manchester United is they're on an international break, so they're not playing.
How does that make any sense?
How does what make any sense?
What are they on a break from? Like for? Is this gonna make me hate soccer even more because it's so confusing?
It's not that confusing. It does seem to be confusing for American sports fans because it's so different, but it's not that confusing. If you kind of have to break it down. and I have an easy way to do that, but let's talk about it first. The Manchester United is on an international break. So right now, all soccer operates under the FIFA calendar. So
Right.
FIFA has scheduled international breaks where I think it's 3 times a year. You don't have to stop, but they have 2 weeks set aside for international games. And so the MLS doesn't stop. The MLS plays through them.
Okay.
But most leagues stop playing so that players can go play with their national teams and
Okay.
stuff.
So this was like when last year when Zach Steffen kept getting called to like the national team in the middle of the season.
Is he in Denver now?
Yeah, he's been in
Is he with the
Denver
Rapids?
for a little while now.
I don't guess I knew. I feel like I knew he had come back to MLS. I don't guess I knew it was Denver. But yes, that's what it would be, and that's probably specifically why it was a bigger deal, because the MLS doesn't stop. Like Charlotte plays this weekend,
Okay, yeah.
even though they just send their players and they just keep playing. Most
That makes
teams,
sense. Yeah.
most leagues stop playing so that they can send their players and then get them back, and nobody has to play without their best players. With the MLS, moving their calendar around, I would imagine they're probably going to start taking international breaks. But
Wait. What are they moving their schedule to again? Isn't it like fall, winter, or something crazy?
yeah, so they're going to line up with the traditional like world club calendar is August through May.
So this makes the NWSL decisions so much more confusing that I will not rant about. But they can't play at Dick's Sporting Goods because there's no space, but the schedule's about to be completely different. Make that make sense. I digress.
Yeah, they're I think if I remember correctly, don't quote me on this, but if I remember correctly, they're finishing out this season. It will end in October, is usually when the MLS championship is. And then they're going to take I think it's 2 months off. And then they're going to do a shortened sprint season. It's going to be a 3-month season.
Okay.
And then they'll take 2 more months off. And then in the fall of 2027 is when they're making the switch, and they'll go to a like you said, essentially a fall, winter, but also through the spring as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, enjoy not watching any of that, I guess, because they're on spring break or whatever.
Spring break. Rumspringa!
Yeah.
Charlotte, like I said, MLS goes, so maybe I'll watch Charlotte FC or something. I don't know. I got Duke UVA. I'll just watch a boatload of lacrosse, right?
Yeah, there you go.
That's what I'll do, I guess. Although, they'll all be on at noon on Saturday, so, what am I going to
So you
watch?
can't pick one. Good luck.
Oh, geez. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this week. If you want to keep the conversation going, the best place to do that is the Lax Lifers Club. That is our community, and at its core is a free Discord where you can talk all versions of lacrosse with other lifers who care about the game as much as you do. All the details are linked in the show notes or in the description if you're watching on YouTube. You can also find us on social media. Brandon is at Hoot Sports Media, and I am Neil Barrett. Wherever you are listening, make sure you are subscribed. And if you have a second to rate or review the show, it genuinely helps us more than you probably realize. And with all of that being said, as always, we'll catch you guys in the comments.